Good morning. This is Blaine for a webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You get more information about our past shows, previous shows, future shows as well at our website, which is behind me, blainsworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Andee Bingham, founder and executive director at Esther Neonatal Kitten Alliance, being my guest today. Andee, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Okay.
Hi.
That is Andee. And Andee, as you'll see, is an amazing woman. She's proud to be the founder and executive director of the Esther Neonatal Kitten Alliance, one of the nation's few rescues dedicated solely for saving newborn and medically fragile kittens. Since its founding in 2019, the organization has provided intensive, around-the-clock care for more than 2,000 vulnerable kittens. Wow, that's a lot of kittens. But
It
who
is a lot of kittens.
and the question I always ask when I meet somebody for the first time is, as a child, you grew up where?
So I actually, my dad was in the military, so that's a complicated question for me to answer. I spent um, a lot of my early years in New York State, Alabama, the Philippines, and then I spent my teenage years primarily between Vermont and Florida.
So a
Yeah.
lot of different places.
Yeah.
How many houses have you had or lived in? A lot of houses?
Oh goodness, probably over my life, 30, 35.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
so let me ask you, as a child or a young woman growing up, did you always know you wanted to be involved with kittens?
Um, no, I will say that I've always loved cats. I've always loved cats and kittens. I've always been an animal lover. But it never really occurred to me to try to make a career out of it until I was in my probably mid 20s.
Okay. And what was the thing that led you to make a career out of it then?
Really, I just started volunteering at a shelter and just by nature, I'm somebody who just likes to, if I think something's interesting, I will just learn absolutely everything about it. So, when I started volunteering at a shelter, this was up in New York, I just wanted to get more and more and more involved and try to figure out like how I can help the most. And that really helped me understand the real impact that shelters were making just across the entire country. And that is kind of what really drew me into it.
And so what got you to the Asheville area?
So when so at this time, I moved to Asheville about 10 years ago, and I had been living in Albany, New York, and I hated Albany, and I had only intended to be there for a year, but I ended up getting stuck there for 3. And when I was leaving there, I didn't really know where I wanted to go. I had been considering going back to my hometown in Vermont, but it always just seemed kind of too small for me. Um, but my dad actually had a few years prior moved to Hot Springs. He has a cabin up in Hot Springs, and I came down to visit him for a few days, and it, really found that Asheville was really a lot like my hometown in Vermont, but was an actual city, and also had more reasonable weather. I really have a hard time with cold, so the only place in Vermont to get a bigger city is to move all the way to Burlington, which is basically Canada, and I wasn't going to move even further north. So Asheville just seemed like a really good kind of compromise, and it's been great. I love this area.
So you moved to Asheville, said like 10 years ago, approximately.
Right.
And so you're here for X number of years. What led you to start then? I just love the name of it. I asked you off the air. What's who's it named after? But the Esther Neonatal Kitten Alliance. What led you to start that?
Yeah, and I will say that I know it's a bit of a mouthful. If you just want to refer to it as the Kitten Alliance, that's fine
Okay, I
too.
love it.
Um,
Okay.
So when I moved to North Carolina, I started working um, for a shelter. And, up in New York, I had bottle fed kittens a few times, maybe 4 or 5 times. But up in New York, there's not the problem that there is down here with, a lot of unaltered animals roaming around. New York State doesn't really have the same level of cat colonies, and that's really because, their weather is such that it's cold for so much of the year that cats can't really survive in that year round. But there's also a different mentality around spaying and neutering up there. So there's just not really the problem up there that there is down here. So when I moved to North Carolina and started working in a shelter, it was just almost every day people were coming in with boxes of newborn kittens that they found in their garden, and their dog found them in their backyard, whatever. And I started bottle feeding again. And since I was in the position to be able to bring them to work with me, and it, and I was there all the time, I started bottle feeding basically constantly. I almost never didn't have kittens. Um, and so the organization was named after one of the first kittens that I bottle fed when I moved to North Carolina. Her name was Esther. And Esther had some birth defects that really eventually she passed away when she was about 5 weeks old. And she just had these congenital problems. But because I wasn't, at that point, I wasn't too familiar with kittens with special needs, and she just had so many challenges. So I ended up kind of partnering with another foster who was more experienced than me in that, and we kind of basically co-parented this kitten. And so when I got to the point, and we can talk in a bit about kind of how I made the decision to start the organization, but when I got to the point of starting my own organization, I was thinking of, obviously you do a lot of thinking about what to name it. And, I felt like Esther was a really good kitten to kind of memorialize with the name, because she really embodied what I want this organization to be, which is just a lot of partnership and teaching and kind of um, all working together and building our skill sets to save as many as we can.
So, in terms of saving the cats, how do you even find them in the first place? Or do they come to you, or do you seek them out?
So right now, probably about 65% of the kittens that we take in each year, we actually take from other shelters and rescues that we partner with. So the demographic that we take in is one that a lot of shelters just don't have the resources to take care of, because bottle feeding takes a special skill set, and kittens who need a lot of physical therapy or a lot of medical care, that's just something that a lot of shelters and rescues just don't have the capacity to take. They don't have the resources, whether that's money, whether that's time, whether that's, the trained foster parent, whether, whatever it is. So we work with a lot of shelters who, when they get in, 2-day old kittens and they just don't have anybody who can do that. If we have the room, we'll take them. And then the other probably 40% of the kittens we take in come directly from the community. So somebody just finds them outside. Every now and then there's somebody who's, owned unspayed cat, gave birth, and for some reason is rejecting the kittens, or, gives birth and then gets hit by a car or something. But primarily the kittens that we take in are born outside to community cats, and people just find them.
Now, these are all special needs kittens for the most part.
So, through a normal year, probably about 80% of the kittens we take in are either too young to be weaned yet, so they're under about, 4 to 5 weeks old, or they have some sort of illness or injury.
Now, in terms of taking them in, you were telling me off the air. So you actually, there's a facility there where the cats hang, or where people you take care of the cats. Where's that facility?
We're in Arden.
Yeah.
And so Arden is for anybody listening, you obviously know where it is because you're in Fairview, but anybody listening who doesn't know where that is basically like South Asheville. But at any given time, so we have about 50 animals in care generally at a time, and usually about half of those are in foster homes. So in our facility, we usually have somewhere between 20 and 30, and then the rest are in foster homes.
And we'll talk about both of that in a second, but assume to take care of these then 50 cats, 20, 25 at your facility. Do you work with volunteers or do you look for volunteers?
We do, yeah. So we have volunteers, fosters. So for volunteers, we have people who come by to do animal care. So they come and really clean the kennels. They help feed. They, help clean the facility. They do laundry. They do dishes. And then we have socializing volunteers who come and just sit with the animals, play with them, make sure that they, get the interactions that they need to be emotionally healthy while they wait to go to foster, they wait to get adopted.
And so talk about the process then. So I guess it's a step-by-step process. So they come in, you take them, take care of them, and eventually is the goal to get them into foster and then to eventually get adopted. Is that the process?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on um, so the animals that stay in our facility either so we have a adoption lounge, which is a free roaming space where legally we can have 12 animals in that room. We like to keep it closer to like 8 or 9 just because it gets a little wild with 12 kittens in there. But those kittens, we get a lot of playtime because basically all the visitors go in there and hang out with them. Adopters are in there all the time. But we have another room that we call temp housing, where basically it's all the animals who are available to go to foster homes. And we like to only keep animals in that room for like a week max, and we try to move them out to foster homes pretty quickly. But sometimes, animals come back for a few days if their foster goes out of town or something like that. Sometimes animals are housed in there just overnight before they go get, their spay neuter surgeries. Um, so there's kind of a lot of turnaround. And then sometimes animals hang out in there a bit longer. So like if there's a, mom who came to us nursing newborn kittens and we don't have a foster home that she can go to, sometimes she'll stay in that room until her babies start to wean, and then it's easier for us to send them to foster.
So I hadn't realized that you folks do that as well. But if folks want to adopt, one of the places they should check out is your place. And so if you come to your place, can you just observe the cats? Can you play with them? Or are you looking for people to just hang or is that what people do?
Yeah, so we have volunteers who come just to play with them, but anybody who's looking to adopt, the great thing about our adoption lounge is you can go in this room and there's, 8 or 9 kittens in there. And, I personally feel like the best way to choose an animal that you're going to adopt is really to let them choose you, to go, sit down in a room and see who you connect with, because it's not always the one that you expect. So we've had quite a few people who have put in adoption applications for, a gorgeous, like fluffy Siamese kitten, and then they go sit in that room, and the one that they connect with is the like basic brown tabby, and you just never really know because the best way to adopt is to adopt by personality and who you really connect with. So that's a pretty good place to really meet the kittens because you really get to see their personalities.
You
Um,
raise a good point that I'm still trying to work with my wife on, but the fact that you should eventually let the cats come to you as opposed to, going to the cat. My wife is a big cat lover and she just loves loving cats. But sometimes I have to tell her, let the cat determine what he wants to do, as opposed to my wife deciding. So
right.
anyway, I won't go into that whole thing, but you hit it. So come to your facility. Can people come to your facility just to visit the cats and share some love with them?
Yep. So Monday through Saturday, we're open from noon to 4. We are temporarily closed to the public in this moment just because we have a illness in the building that we're trying to not spread around. So right now, we're not allowing visitors except for volunteers. But hopefully in September we'll be back open to the public.
And talk also about then the foster process, because I contend if you're not sure about a cat or want to see about a cat, one of the great things you can do is to foster a cat. And talk about
Mhm.
what that entails.
Yeah, so fosters are really, the only reason that we're able to do what we do because, with the amount of extra care that our animals generally require, we really need those fosters to be able to open up their homes and give them that. So basically, when you sign up to foster, we provide all the training that you might need. We provide all the supplies. We provide the medical care. And you just open your home and give love for a couple weeks. And it's a really good it's a really good way to you know get the love of a cat without the 15-year commitment to it, So we have several fosters who, only live in Asheville for a few months of the year and they do a lot of traveling. And so they can't have pets of their own because they're just not here enough. But, when they are here, they get to have, kittens in their home and it's really fun. And, if you're fostering, you just get to have kittens all the time. They never grow out of that kitten stage because once they get returned and they go to adoptive homes and you get to have more kittens. It's pretty perfect.
And talk also about people who foster, and it kind of has a negative name to it, but it's a very positive thing, who become failed fosters. That it's in some respects, I guess, a very good thing that you have failed fosters, right? What's that all about?
Yeah, so sometimes people foster their kittens and just can't give them up. They fall in love with them. We try to we try to make sure that people are like actually falling in love with it. Can get kind of confusing if you're fostering for the first time. I will say the first litter or two are the hardest to give up, and after that, it gets pretty easy. And so we try to just make sure that people are making decisions based on like, truly being in love with that animal and not just being sad because they're giving, because the kitten's going back. So there's a bit of a difference there. And the hard part is that pretty often when people do adopt, they stop fostering. So, and we really need those fosters. So, um, it's kind of a little bit of a good and bad. But yeah, I mean, our fosters always get first dibs. So, as long as they tell us before the kitten goes live for adoption that they want to be the adopter, then we always make that happen. But yeah, I mean, I have foster failed on two of my cats, and, I know how it is to fall in love with a kitten and not be able to let them go.
And we've done that too, and they weren't even kittens, but they were, grown cats, which is kind of a very sweet thing when somebody takes on an older cat, because I guess it's easy on your end, Andy, to not get rid of, but to have kittens, little cute kittens get adopted, but to have older cats, that's sometimes a challenge, I guess, for you. Um,
Yeah, so we probably take in about 50 or so adults per year. We take in nursing moms and and probably about uh, probably about I don't know, maybe 30% of those nursing moms are like feral or semi-feral, and those cats always we find barn cat homes for them or some sort of like situation like that. But the rest of those adults sometimes really are hard for us to find homes for just because we're a kitten specific organization, people come to us looking for the kittens. So it can take a little bit more work to get the adults adopted, and sometimes we end up transferring the adults to some of our shelter partners where people are actually going there looking for adults, and then they get adopted much faster.
and like you said, some people actually look forward to having adults because they don't want the kitten to run around and take care of a
Yeah,
kitten,
I mean, kittens are wild and they're not for everyone.
The explain if you would then, so the foster process, or in general, if somebody's interested in your organization, first thing I guess is to go to the website or social media page.
Yeah, so if you're interested in either fostering or volunteering, you can go to our website, which is just kittenalliance.org. And there's a tab on the top, I think that says Get Involved. And from there, there's a you can click on foster or volunteer. And yeah, so either for the fosters, you just fill out a quick application. The approval for that's more conversation based because we want to just really understand more about your home, your lifestyle, kind of what your comfort level is to make sure that we're placing you with the right kittens. So the application is very simple. It's just what kind of kittens are or what kind of animals you're looking to foster. Do you have experience? Like all that stuff. But it's, probably would only take you 5 minutes to fill out that application. And then to volunteer, right when you hit on the volunteer page, you go through a 20-minute orientation. And then at the end of that orientation, you can go ahead and start signing up for shifts. So,
We should also mention on the website, I assume, too, if somebody's interested just in straight out adoption, that's also where they get the information for adoption as well.
yep. So we have all of our adoptables on our website. And then we also, they get cross-posted to Adopt a Pet and Pet Finder.
And how many pets right now are up for adoption?
Oh, so Uh, that I'm not sure about. So right now we're in a little bit of a weird situation because we do have an illness in our building.
Right.
So the only animals that are being adoptable right now, because we're kind of in this observation period, we don't want to adopt out animals who might break with an illness. So we're in an observation period with everybody in the building. So the animals that we have that are adoptable are the ones who are in foster homes who've never
Gotcha.
entered our building. So we have fewer than we normally would at this time, just because it's been a little bit challenging to coordinate. I would bet we probably have, I don't know, 6 or 7 right now who were adoptable.
Okay. And one of the nice things, I guess, especially if they're in a foster environment, you can actually get to see the cat too at the foster environment, or they come to your
So we've been
facility.
meeting, we haven't been allowing
Gotcha.
adopters to go to the foster's homes just for safety reasons. So we've been meeting in a neutral location. We have one of our vets is allowing us to do adoptions at their vet office.
Very nice. Now, I assume also if they go to your website, if we should mention this as well, if somebody would be interested in making a contribution to the organization, you'd welcome that as well.
Strongly welcomed, yes.
How about in terms of other things? I know whenever we lose a cat or whatever, do you also take cat food? Do you take cat toys, supplies, stuff like that as well?
We do, and anything that we can't use either in our foster homes or in our facility, we have a pet food pantry. So the community can come and take any food, or we have leashes and toys and all kinds of stuff in there that we can't use that we're able to pass on to the community. So we even have dog food in the pet pantry, and I think we even have some bird food and like gerbil food or something. But yeah, we're always welcoming anything anybody wants to donate to us, and if we can't use it, we'll find a good home for it.
When you started this years ago, who would have thunk you'd be to where you are now? When did you first have the facility itself?
So I started the organization in 2019, and we moved into this facility in 2020. We leased it for 2 years, and then we bought it in 2022.
Very exciting. How about the role of, you mentioned before, veterinarians? How do they come into play?
Yeah, so we partner with several vet clinics around town. And I mean, we probably go on an average week, we're probably at the vet 2 or 3 times for any strange little thing. So we work with our vets very closely. And then there's a spay neuter clinic that we work with closely. But yeah, we don't have a vet on staff. So it's very important for us to have those vet partners.
So it's very nice. They're giving of their time and services.
Yeah, we do pay for it, of course, but we get a discount.
Okay, very nice. Talk also in terms of how I found out about you, and we'll give a shout out to my producer extraordinaire, Cappy Tossetti. But I know she had just lost a pet, and she was looking for a replacement. I think she was looking just one cat originally. But talk about her story, which is just kind of a very sweet story. How did she find you, or she just read about you on Facebook or something?
Yeah, so I will say that I wasn't the main person who was talking to her. My adoption coordinator was primarily talking to her, but from what I understand, she saw on Facebook we had taken in, um, it was a litter of four. Where did they come from? Um, I don't remember where this, I think they came to us from one of our shelter partners, but it was a litter of four kittens. When they came to us, I think they were probably around like 4 weeks old, and two of them had ruptured eyes. So if kittens have, a very bad eye infection that isn't taken care of, or if they get some sort of like eye injury, their eyes can actually rupture and just kind of bulge out of their head. And once that happens, there's really no saving the eyes. And she had fallen in love with one of them, and unfortunately, the one that she had really fallen for passed away
Oh
during his
yeah,
new
I remember
surgery.
that. She told me all that.
Um, so that was really unfortunate. But she ended up adopting. Um, she ended up adopting the other one. I can't remember if that one lost one eye or both eyes. I think maybe that one only lost one eye, but she ended up adopting that one, and then she adopted his sister.
It was
Uh,
amazing. Yeah, all of a sudden, Cappy tells me she's not a cat mother for one person, but all of a sudden, two people, two cats in life.
yeah,
Does that oftentimes happen that people come in and just want to get one cat and then they wind up leaving with two?
it does happen a lot, thankfully, because it helps us move more into homes quicker. But I will say that, sometimes there's this misconception that adopting two is more work, but in reality, adopting two kittens is less work because they're going to entertain each other and they're going to get into a lot less shenanigans than they would if there was only one of them. So it actually it's really beneficial for, kittens to have a playmate, and it's really going to cause a lot less chaos in your house because they're going to be able to play and distract with each other.
I always wonder about that. So that's a recommendation
Hmm.
made by cat shelters, but there's a validity to it that you're better off with.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So outside of the shelter, you work there all the time. Do you have cats of your own?
I do. I actually have five cats, and then last year I accidentally adopted a dog. So I have five cats and a dog.
It's funny you say that, but I like that you accidentally. How did you accidentally adopt it? It just
I have been a cat person through and through for my entire life, and I have always said that I like dogs just fine, but I don't want one. I didn't understand them. Cats, I, you know, just very naturally can understand their body language. Just like that, I can pick up on just the tiniest little like minute signal from a cat. And like if a cat bites me, like I know what I did to make that
right,
happen.
right, right.
It's a very like innate thing that I have. And dogs, I do not understand them. I just didn't really think about them too much. And then last year, I don't know what it was, but last year I just started thinking, maybe I want a dog. And so for a couple months, I was like, that's ridiculous. You don't want a dog. And but I just couldn't shake it. And at the end of last year, I had an ankle surgery. I had broken my ankle a few years previous, and I had a surgery to get some hardware removed that had really been causing me a lot of problems. And while I was um, recovering from that, I just kept thinking about it, and I just kept thinking, like when I'm recovered and I start needing to be more active, like my ankle has just been in such bad shape for the past few years because it hurts so bad because of that hardware that like, I need something to motivate me to really like get out and walk more, like start hiking, like just doing the things I needed to do to strengthen my ankle. And I just kept going back to this, like a dog would help me do that. And then this special needs like tripod dog, he's missing one of his front arms, just kind of like fell into my lap. And I was like, all right, that's the universe telling me that it's time for me to have a dog.
Because I have to ask you a question because ironically, we're going through something similar as we speak. My wife had always been a cat lover. We've always had cats, lots and lots of cats. But she had this inkling, same thing as you. She always wanted a dog. So we're now in the process of getting a dog, you know. But the question I have to ask you, if I can, how are they all getting along?
So, I ended up adopting a dog who was a bit younger than I was looking for. I was looking for like a young adult,
Right?
and I ended up adopting a 5-month-old puppy. And he just turned a year. He's like 14 months now. And so he has this kind of like puppy energy that they just don't really understand. So, they'll like hiss at him and he'll be like, "Hey," he's a very like he's an incredibly friendly dog who just wants to be friends with everybody he's ever met. So it's he really wants to be friends with them. They're not really sure about it yet. Two of them have warmed up to him a little bit more, but nobody's like cuddling with him yet or anything, but um they're coexisting, I will say. But I will say that cats and dogs are just like night and day. I mean, my cats are like having moody, independent teenagers, and he is like having a toddler. I mean, he just requires so much work, and I love him so much. Like, he adds so much to my life, and he really has. My ankle is doing great because of him. We go for hikes all the time. We go for long walks. Like, he really has he's really improved my health, but he's a lot of work. So
Well, but he's lucky also in the sense that you're his dog mother or whatever you call yourself, but it's because you knew how to take care of dogs. You know, like you're describing this process that, I mean, to take care of a kitten or a sick kitten, it can be a big job, you know, especially
yeah.
if you've never done it before. And do people come here as volunteers? Do people come to you who have no experience in that and you teach them?
Yep. Yep. Our philosophy is basically, if you want to help, we'll find a way to plug you in. So if like, we have some people who work with an organization who works with um, you know uh, adults with developmental challenges, and there's several groups of them that come here a few times a week, and depending on the person, there's different levels of what they're able to do physically or whatever, and but I'll tell you, like, just a person, like, if physically all they're able to do is sit in a room and play with a wand toy with a kitten, I'll tell you, like, that kitten will think that that's the best thing that's ever happened to them. So we welcome all sorts of people, no matter what level of training you have, no matter what level of physical capability you have. Like, we'll find a way to plug you in and help the kittens. So if you want to clean kennels, but you've never really done animal care before, we'll train you, and we'll make sure that you're able to help the kittens.
I guess the real key is that they just have to have the love for animals. You know,
Yeah,
if they love the animals, I guess that's the most important thing. You're gonna find a way to put them to work.
absolutely.
Okay. And just to recap, so if folks want to get in touch, and like you gave me the short name, but I just love the name. If folks want to get in touch and find out more about the Esther Neonatal Kitten Alliance, best bet is to go to the website, and the website was what?
The website is kittenalliance.org. And people can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and we're just Kitten Alliance there.
Okay. And so if they want to, I mean, a whole bunch of things you mentioned people can do. So they can volunteer, they can foster, they can adopt, they can donate. Can you imagine people want to donate to support this organization? Where do you see it going, we'll say in the future, say 10 years from now? Where do you see yourself?
So, at some point, I would really like to open a chapter or two. There's, some communities that we pretty regularly take animals from who just don't have a lot of resources, and I would love to open a chapter, around like the Spartanburg area is one that I think about a lot. We take a lot of animals from South Carolina, so opening a chapter or two, just make sure that like these resources are there. Um, I would love to get to the point where we have the budget to hire an overnight caretaker who can bottle feed kittens overnight, so that if we don't have a foster home to place them in immediately, we still can take them in and have somebody caring for them overnight. Um, those are kind of like the two big ones. I would like to expand our community education program and expand our shelter support program just to make sure that more people have the resources and training that they need to take care of these kittens. Yeah, those are the big ones.
Anyway, I'd like to thank you, Andy, for being my guest on this edition of Blaine's World webcast. Thank you for all you do for the um, kittens or cats in the area. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Dissetti. Hopefully, one of these days we'll actually see you in person, bump into each
Yeah,
other. That'd be
stop
great.
on by.
Okay, thanks very much, Andy. Be well.
Yeah, thank you.